Hey everybody, Benjamin Keck with Keck Legal. Today I want to talk about something I see a lot with my clients who own businesses and are struggling financially, and they wind up putting their own funds into funding the business. Now, of course, sometimes you got to do what you've got to do to make payroll, and of course, as an equity holder in your own business, it's very natural to have to put money in as an investment in the business. This is all very normal. Where things become problematic is once you enter into what's called the zone of insolvency. If you find yourself getting behind on loan payments, getting deeper and deeper into debt, perhaps even defaulting on things like a loan payment, credit card payments that you couldn't make in time, leases, that sort of thing, now you're in the zone of insolvency. And when you reach that point, you really ought to talk to a restructuring attorney to know what your options are. So many people simply just keep putting their own personal funds into the business. And of course, when you're looking out for other people, quite frankly, that's sometimes a necessity, sometimes something that needs to happen. But so many times, it very well may be that you're just digging a deeper hole, unfortunately. And if that's the case, you've now taken funds out of your own pocket and basically thrown it onto a bonfire, where in many cases may have been much better off talking to a restructuring attorney, coming up with a plan, potentially filing Chapter 11 for the company to reorganize and deal with some of those debts and avoid having to put personal funds in, because most of the time you're probably paying yourself last. You're paying, of course, your employees first, vendors, perhaps even big banks who probably don't need the money as much as you do, but yet you're digging into your own personal savings to fund this business, which may or may not be a good idea given the circumstances. If you're finding yourself doing that more than once to cover cash flow and finding yourself putting more and more of your own money into a business and believe you might be in the zone of insolvency, you ought to talk to an attorney who does restructuring work immediately to know what your options are, because it very well may be that that money may just be wasted. You may be much better off with the Chapter 11 filing and deal with the debt that way and restructure rather than taking money out of your own pocket. Probably the worst thing that I see people do is dig into their retirement savings. That is the absolute last resort. You should never, ever dig into your retirement savings to fund expenses for your company unless absolutely necessary. If you are even thinking about doing that, or if you're thinking that might be a thing you might need to do, you should contact an attorney immediately. Immediately. You are in an emergency situation, whether you realize it or not. And here's why. In most states, possibly all states, certainly in Georgia where we're located, 100% of your legitimate retirement contributions to 401ks and IRAs are protected from creditors. Your creditors cannot touch your funds that are in your retirement accounts, assuming that everything was done properly. There's a few very minor exceptions. However, the vast majority of the time, that money is safe. And what you've done by withdrawing that money is you've now made it unsafe. You've now taken money that was there for your retirement and put it into a business where you might never get that money back, and created a situation where creditors now have the ability to get that money back. It is no longer safe once it's taken out of your retirement account. I see so many clients who come to me for Chapter 11 advice. They've got maybe a bank loan that they've personally guaranteed, and they're looking for options. And as soon as I hear that they've taken money out of their retirement account to fund the business, I think, oh my God, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And if the answer is, well, I needed to pay my employees, that's a pretty good answer. If the answer is, I needed to pay the bank, it's like, well, was the bank going to go out of business if you didn't pay them? Like, why did you do that? It certainly wasn't because it was in your best interest. Otherwise, you would not have done that. So you ought to know what your rights are. You ought to know what your options are, and particularly when we're talking about digging it into your own personal funds and putting it into your business. If you're having to do that, you should probably talk to an attorney right away to know what your options are in terms of restructuring for your business. If you're thinking about digging into your retirement accounts, you should absolutely not do that unless you've talked to an attorney first and are well informed about your options and have made a conscious decision that, yes, I'm going to take this money that was saved from creditors, throw it on the bonfire. Hopefully it doesn't just go up in smoke, and hopefully you're able to recoup some of that money, although if this is your situation, you are very much at risk of losing that money forever. So know your rights, talk to an attorney sooner rather than later. Benjamin Keck with Keck Legal. Our website is www.kecklegal.com. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thanks, everybody.